Some events arrive so quickly that the human mind cannot fully understand what is happening. The ship that once carried you across peaceful waters suddenly breaks apart in the middle of a storm, and plans built over many years disappear within a few moments. You are thrown from everything familiar, drifting through cold water with no shore in sight. In such a situation, instinct will urge you to struggle. The mind keeps searching for a way back to what was just lost, as if enough effort could restore the past exactly as it was. But the ocean does not negotiate with human fear. The waves continue to rise, the wind keeps blowing, and your strength will slowly disappear if all you know how to do is fight the current. What saves you first is not swimming faster, but calming the panic long enough to recognize where the water is carrying you. Life works in much the same way. When a job ends, a relationship disappears, or a path suddenly closes. Most of us immediately call it failure. We rush to repair, hold on, or find a replacement, only to escape the emptiness opening inside. That urgency causes us to miss the true meaning of the event. Perhaps what collapsed was no longer suited for the journey ahead. Perhaps life is pulling you away from a place where you remained too long because you were afraid to change. A closed door does not always exist to stop your movement. Sometimes it forces you to turn around and notice a path you had always ignored. Yet the new way becomes visible only when the dust inside the mind begins to settle. Anxiety distorts vision. Fear turns every empty space into an abyss. In that state, you may make decisions simply to escape discomfort. Then call them action. Some people enter another relationship because they cannot bear being alone. Others cling to work that has already exhausted them because they fear losing security. Some try to rebuild the very life that once caused them pain, simply because it feels familiar. Effort born from fear rarely leads to freedom. It only creates another cage in a different shape. Therefore, when the storm arrives, your first task is not to react immediately. Give yourself enough silence to see clearly what has truly been lost and what still remains. You may lose your position, your money, your recognition, or even the person who once promised to stay beside you, yet your ability to observe, choose, and rebuild yourself is still there. This is the territory that circumstances cannot conquer unless you surrender it willingly. Composure in adversity is not indifference. It is the discipline of preventing your energy from being consumed by useless thoughts. Instead of repeatedly asking why life has treated you this way, look at what the event is revealing within you. It may expose a dependence that has lasted too long, a fear you have never faced, or a foundation that was weaker than it appeared. The storm does more than destroy. It also reveals what was built on illusion will fall, while what is true will remain standing. With enough courage to observe, you may recognize that loss can also be a form of purification. It removes the things you once used to define yourself, then places an important question before you. When every title disappears, what remains? The answer does not appear in noise. It comes when you sit quietly with uncertainty without trying to escape. In that stillness, the energy once consumed by regret begins to return. You start to see the smallest step that must be taken, not to restore what once existed, but to create a more mature direction for your life. A person with inner strength does not demand a calm sea before learning how to keep balance. They adjust the sails, study the wind, and use the force of the storm itself to move forward. Life will not always give you what you expected, but every event carries a direction within it. While the mind remains chaotic, you can see only an ending once the inner world becomes quiet. You begin to recognize an invitation to enter another path. Do not rush to rebuild what has fallen. Stand among the ruins long enough to understand what should never be built again. Then carry the lesson with you. Steady your mind and move toward what is calling you. The storm may change the landscape around you, but it cannot decide who you will become when the sky grows clear again. When the storm begins to pass, the world around you may still look uncertain, yet something important has already changed. You have seen how quickly external structures can disappear, and this realization can either make you more fearful or more awake. The wiser path is to understand that security was never meant to come entirely from circumstances. A title can be removed, money can lose value, people can change, and plans can collapse under forces no one predicted. If your peace is tied to these things, then your inner life remains exposed to every movement outside you. This is why those who carry great responsibility often seek silence before the day begins. They know that influence in the outer world means little without order within. A person may command companies, lead armies, or hold the attention of thousands, yet still be ruled by anger, insecurity, praise, and fear. Power over others cannot repair the absence of power over oneself. The only territory that truly belongs to you is the mind you inhabit. And even that territory must be trained, protected, and understood. Without discipline, it becomes an open gate where every opinion enters. Every insult takes root, and every disappointment decides the atmosphere of the day. The inner temple is not built from comfort. It is formed through repeated acts of awareness. Each time you pause before reacting, you strengthen its walls. Each time you refuse to let another person choose your emotional state, you reclaim a piece of your ground. Each time you remain honest with yourself when excuses would be easier, the foundation becomes more stable. This temple is not a place of escape from life. It is the place from which life can be faced without losing direction. Many people spend years trying to rearrange the world so they can finally feel calm. They wait for better conditions, kinder people, more recognition, greater certainty, or a future with fewer risks. Yet the world does not remain still long enough to satisfy that demand. One problem ends and another appears. Approval arrives. Then thought is, success offers relief, but soon creates a new fear of losing what has been gained. A mind that depends on perfect conditions will never rest because perfect conditions do not exist. Inner stability begins when you stop asking reality to become harmless. You start training yourself to meet reality with clarity. This does not make you cold. It allows emotion to move through you without taking command. Sadness can be felt without turning into despair. Anger can be noticed without becoming destruction. Fear can offer information without becoming a master. The goal is not to erase what arises inside, but to create enough space between feeling and action so that wisdom has time to enter. Within that space, freedom becomes possible. The person who insults you may control the sound that reaches your ears, but not the meaning you choose to give it. A setback may alter your schedule, but it does not have the authority to define your worth. Uncertainty may surround the next step, yet it cannot force you to abandon your principles. These distinctions are small, but they separate a reactive life from a self-directed one. The quality of your days depends less on what enters them than on what your mind does with what arrives. A calm mind does not make every situation easy. It prevents difficulty from multiplying through careless interpretation. When the inner world is neglected, one event can create 10 imagined threats. A delayed answer becomes rejection, criticism becomes humiliation, and an unexpected change becomes proof that everything is falling apart. Awareness interrupts this chain before it gains momentum. It brings you back to what is actually happening, rather than what fear has added. From there, energy can be used with precision. You can respond to the real problem instead of fighting a story created by anxiety. This is the quiet strength of the inner temple. It filters noise, protects attention, and keeps your values visible when emotion becomes intense. No one can build it for you. Teachers may offer methods, books may provide language, and hardship may reveal where the walls are weak. But the construction remains your responsibility. It happens in ordinary moments when no one is watching and no reward is immediate. You build it when you begin the day without surrendering your attention to noise. You strengthen it when you remain steady during conflict. You enter it when confusion rises and you choose observation before judgment. Over time, the mind becomes less like an open battlefield and more like a guarded sanctuary. Thoughts still appear, emotions still move, and the world continues to change. But not everything is allowed to rule you. From this protected ground, you no longer search desperately for safety in unstable places. You carry a center that can travel with you. Once that center becomes strong, the next step is to prepare it before the pressures of the day begin. Because a temple left unguarded at dawn may be invaded before noon. A temple left unguarded at dawn may be invaded before noon. And the same is true of the mind. The first hour of the day quietly shapes the way you meet everything that follows. Before messages arrive, before demands begin, before the world starts pulling at your attention, there is a brief period when your inner state is still yours to direct. Most people give this moment away without noticing. They reach for noise, absorb the moods of others, and enter the day already scattered. A warrior prepares differently. He does not wait for pressure to reveal his weakness. He studies the possible difficulties before they appear, not to become fearful, but to reduce their power. Each morning, sit with the understanding that plans may change. People may disappoint you. Delays may test your patience. And unexpected problems may demand more from you than you intended to give. This is not an invitation to expect disaster. It is a way of training the nervous system to remain steady when reality refuses to cooperate. A person who assumes the day will unfold perfectly becomes fragile the moment it does not. Small disruptions feel personal. Ordinary resistance feels unfair. And emotion begins to govern behavior. Preparation changes this pattern. When the mind has already considered difficulty, the first shock becomes smaller. You recognize the situation instead of being consumed by it. The obstacle no longer feels like an attack on your life. It becomes part of the terrain you were prepared to cross. Imagine the moments most likely to disturb your balance. See the conversation that may become tense. The work that may demand patience, the silence that may trigger insecurity, or the failure that may tempt you to doubt yourself. Then rehearse the response you wish to embody. Picture yourself breathing before speaking. See your attention returning to the task instead of following frustration. Feel the decision to remain aligned with your values, even when emotion urges you toward reaction. The mind learns through repetition, and a response practiced in stillness becomes easier to access under pressure. This is mental inoculation. You introduce a small image of discomfort while you are calm, so the real experience does not overwhelm your system later. Ancient warriors sharpened their weapons before battle. A modern person must sharpen awareness before entering the noise of the day. Without this preparation, the mind becomes easy to provoke. One careless comment can destroy hours of focus. A delayed result can awaken old fears. A minor inconvenience can expose how little control was present beneath the surface. Morning training creates distance between the event and the response. That distance may last only a few seconds, yet within it lies the possibility of a different life. You begin to notice that discomfort does not require immediate obedience. Anger can rise without speaking through your mouth. Anxiety can appear without deciding your direction. Fatigue can be present without lowering your standards. The practice is simple, but simplicity should never be confused with ease. To sit quietly and face the possibility of difficulty requires honesty. The mind prefers pleasant fantasies because they ask nothing from character. Real preparation asks you to look at where you are still reactive, dependent, impatient, or afraid. It reveals the places in your inner temple that remain unprotected. Once seen, these weaknesses no longer need to be hidden. They can be trained. Choose one quality to carry into the day. It may be patience, restraint, courage, precision, or calme, attention. Do not treat it as an idea. Give it form through action. Decide how patience will speak when someone tests you. Decide what courage will look like when avoidance feels easier. Decide how restraint will guide your words when pride wants to defend itself. A value becomes strength only when it survives contact with reality. Morning reflection prepares that contact. It turns principle into readiness. Over time, the day stops feeling like something that happens to you. It becomes a field where character is practiced. Every delay trains composure. Every disagreement becomes an opportunity to protect clarity. Every uncertainty invites you to remain rooted without demanding immediate answers. This does not remove hardship, but it transforms your relationship with it. You stop entering life as an unprepared victim of circumstance and begin meeting it as someone who has already chosen how to stand. The warrior is not powerful because the road is gentle. He is powerful because his center was prepared before the road became difficult. Once this discipline becomes part of the morning, effort itself changes. You learn to act with full commitment while releasing the anxious need to control what happens after the action is complete. Once the mind has been prepared, the next lesson is to act without allowing the result to become a chain around your spirit. Imagine an archer standing in silence before the target. His feet are grounded. His breath is measured. His attention is gathered into one clear line. He studies the distance, adjusts his posture, draws the string, and releases with complete commitment. From that moment, the arrow no longer belongs to him. Wind may shift, the target may move, or conditions may change beyond his control. His responsibility ended with the quality of the release. This is the difference between disciplined effort and anxious attachment. Many people claim to be working toward a goal, yet beneath the effort there is a hidden demand. They believe success must arrive in a certain form, at a certain time, and prove something about their worth. The moment reality refuses to obey, frustration begins to poison the process. Energy that should have been used for practice is consumed by worry, comparison, and the need for reassurance. The work loses clarity because the mind is no longer serving the task. It is serving fear. Attachment turns desire into pressure. A simple wish becomes a condition for happiness, and the condition slowly becomes a prison. When you tell yourself that peace will come only after the promotion, the recognition, the relationship, or the victory, you place your inner state in the hands of events that may never unfold according to your plan. This does not mean you should abandon ambition. It means ambition must be purified. A mature desire gives direction without becoming desperation. It allows you to pursue excellence while remaining whole before the outcome arrives. The archer does not become careless because he accepts uncertainty. He becomes more precise since the future cannot be controlled. He gives deeper attention to the present movement. The grip becomes steadier, the breath becomes quieter, and the release becomes cleaner. This is where true power is found. You cannot command the response of the world, but you can refine the quality of your action. You cannot force another person to understand you, yet you can choose honesty in your words. You cannot guarantee that effort will be rewarded, yet you can decide whether the effort carries discipline, patience, and integrity. The moment your attention returns to what is actually yours, anxiety loses part of its authority. Life becomes lighter, not because the goal matters less, but because your identity is no longer fused with the result. Failure can then become information instead of humiliation. Delay becomes training instead of proof that you are unworthy. A closed door becomes a signal to adjust your aim rather than a verdict on your value. This separation between effort and outcome does not weaken commitment. It protects commitment from emotional chaos. A person obsessed with results often performs poorly because tension narrows perception. They overthink, force timing, ignore feedback, and confuse urgency with progress. The person who remains unattached can observe more clearly. They notice when to continue, when to change direction, and when to release something that has already taken enough. Their decisions are guided by reality rather than by the fear of losing an imagined future. To practice this, ask yourself where your duty truly ends. If you are preparing for an opportunity, then study, train, and arrive ready. If you are building something, then give attention to the craft. If you are repairing a relationship, then speak truthfully, listen carefully, and act with respect. After that, the response belongs to life. You may influence it, but you cannot own it. Trying to control what lies beyond your reach only divides the mind and weakens the hand. The arrow must leave the bow. Keeping it drawn forever does not increase accuracy. It only exhausts the archer. There comes a point when preparation must become release, and release must be followed by acceptance. This is where freedom begins. You act fully, yet your peace does not depend on applause. You pursue what matters, yet you remain capable of walking away when the path reveals a different lesson. You care deeply without demanding certainty. Such a person is difficult to break because disappointment cannot take away the discipline already developed through the attempt. Every sincere action leaves something behind. Even when the visible goal is missed, skill grows, judgment sharpens, character deepens, and the next decision is made from greater understanding. The target is never the only reward